Good evening, everyone. This is Atmospheric Alex here, and it has been a few days since I have last uploaded, as there has not been anything significant ongoing. But let me tell you what I'm about to talk about in this video is going to be very significant to a lot of people. Now, before we get into this, lengthy, detailed forecast discussion on future Major Hurricane Milton, I just want to say I've seen the photos from Helene. The storm surge, wind damage, especially the flooding in the Appalachians. And what has been going on there has been truly heart-wrenching. And I really can't put it into words. There's other people who have been able to a little bit, who have said that this is basically the Katrina of the Appalachian Mountains, and they couldn't be any more right. There's people still stranded up on those mountains with little to no help. If you can, and you're watching this video, I'd highly suggest that you donate to local causes in that area. Be careful around charities. They might try and scam you. I've seen some of that before. Please donate to the source. Okay? And I just pray that those people up there can get help as soon as possible. Not only from government officials who, let's be honest, really haven't done a great job right now at the moment. I don't want to stray into that too much, but I'm really fired up about that, particularly because what else are they doing? They should be helping those poor people out. It's taking the locals to do it instead. And we thank those people with great respect. Now let's get into today's forecast discussion of what else is coming up for Florida. So we are currently running our Sally imagery here from cyclonicweather.com, and you might have to squint to see this one. We have a very tiny tropical storm as currently swirling up a lot all of a sudden on our latest frames. We're noticing a ring of deep convection that is beginning to swirl in a cyclonic fashion with very evident cyclonic flow. Look at that, down near the surface, and of course some land interaction here, more of a boundary interference. This is causing all your thunderstorm activity to get bunched up under your lower level center here. This is some very bad news if you don't want to see rapid development later on in its time frame. It's also important that we haven't even hit the peak convective activity of the night yet. This thing cannot wait, can it? I really wish it would, though. Want to know why? Here is our National Hurricane Center's cone of uncertainty, and yeah, not much I need to say. They are forecasting a major hurricane landfall straight over the city of Tampa, Florida. I'm not saying that this is perfectly going to happen in that specific manner, but residents in those areas, you need to get out of there. I'm sorry. I know that it's a little bit preliminary to be saying this, but the amount of storm surge in that particular spot could be, it could be very serious. I don't want to say anything else about it, because there's a chance that this isn't as strong. Put it into perspective, even a Category 2 hurricane will do significant damage across those areas in terms of storm surge. You need to be on high alert, and if you haven't gotten out or evacuated already, you need to be thinking about doing so just in case, just to stay safe. Another keynote, this is going to waste absolutely no time. It is expected to become a hurricane late tomorrow night. I think it could be a little earlier than this due to our development already. And a major hurricane here by Tuesday afternoon. If any strengthening occurs between here and here, then buckle up because it could get much more serious in a hurry. So now we're going to take a look at our tropical storm force wind speed probabilities from the National Hurricane Center. You can see very quickly this thing is expected to slash through Florida. Central Florida specifically, is like a fruit, and a knife is about to go through it. I think that, unfortunately, is the best way to put this, especially if the system is a bit stronger than forecasted. We could see some gradual weakening before landfall. What if that doesn't happen, though? What if for some reason things are out of place and instead we see strengthening? That could be very serious. I'm talking, about even people in Orlando. Yeah, we need to be watching this system as closely as possible. And what about your hurricane force wind speed probabilities? Florida, Central Florida, could see the entirety of Central Florida could see hurricane force sustained winds. Wow. This just reminds me of how fast Helene went. It really does, doesn't it? Just absolutely a ton of damage could be done across a very widespread region here. And we should not be taking our eyes off of this whatsoever. With that in mind, let's just assume this does barrel straight through Tampa. What could your storm surge look like? And this, by the way, is the low end. I'm not willing to go at the high end yet because it's a little far out. But even your low end is going to be quite dangerous. I think that's the only way I could put this. So as we go throughout time here, and we raise the water level 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet. Okay. So what about when the storm first arrives and everything like that? Well, we can see towns along the coastline. Gandy could be completely underwater already. We're talking about some other, preserves, reservoirs, neighborhoods over here, totally underwater. Bear in mind, this is before the storm hits. So, what happens when the storm hits? Well, we'll talk about that in a second. We have so many neighborhoods and subdivisions totally underwater here. I mean, my goodness. This is a low-lying area where Tampa resides, and its surrounding suburbs. I mean, you even over here, look at another neighborhood totally underwater. Well, look at down here. Another neighborhood underwater. Another one. You know what to look for. You just keep seeing these neighborhoods and just the blue shading over them. Crazy, right? Well, let's say we go a little bit closer to Tampa here. Alright, so here's Tampa on the map. Okay, keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and zoom in. Whole entire street underwater, several neighborhoods underwater, significant river flooding, significant neighborhood flooding along a very widespread area there, more neighborhood flooding, that entire area is underwater. Okay, so Alex, you told us what's going to happen before the storm arrives, assuming this goes at the National Hurricane Center's projected path. Well, what on earth is going to happen when your peak storm surge arrives? Well, I'm glad you asked. 10 feet. There you go. Yeah, neighborhoods underwater. More underwater. Several streets. Let's say Indian Rocks Beach, Indian Shores, Reddington Shores, North Reddington Beach, Madeira Beach, Treasure Island, St. Pete Beach, Tierra Verde. It continues. On and on. Even Gandy. Blue. Totally blue. Everywhere. This is, by far, this could be potentially the worst amount of storm surge we see this entire hurricane season. And we thought that Helene was dangerous with that impact. Okay. Ruskin, yep, you're underwater. Apollo Beach, underwater. This is ridiculous. And we're going to zoom in even further. I know I'm taking up a lot of time with this. But you just see all of this blue. Everywhere. Rivers totally flooded. Look at this. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Look over here. That's the Tampa suburbs. That's the inner suburbs of Tampa, completely underwater along the coast, in the bay. Look at this. Look at all that. Goodness. And it just keeps going. Far up the bay. These areas aren't supposed to see any water accumulating anywhere. Well, they're probably going to this time, depending on where your system goes. I'll give you one final zoomed out look at everything. I'm going to outline it all in red. Yeah. If you live, anywhere along the coastline, if this becomes as intense as forecasted in the specific area, well, it's just not going to end well, so... Alright, so how many people live in these areas? Well, take a look at this. got a lot of your secondary orange shades here. What, about 100,000 people? Yeah? Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's not good. The thing about Helene, right, is that when it caused all of its crazy storm surge at 12 to 16 feet plus, it was over marshlands, so you didn't get many reports. No one was going to stand out there and report the water level rising. This is a different scenario. We just went from probably around 1,000 people to 100,000 people with the same amount of storm surge possible. Put that into consideration real quick. This is why you need to take this seriously. Okay, enough about that. We're going to look at your ocean heat content, and, casually we're going off the charts here. Well, your system, guess what? Well, it's going right through that. So that is why, like I said, you will likely see rapid intensification with this hurricane here. And notice how your shelf waters here have very deep ocean heat content values. Your waters go down quite far, almost to the coastline here. Yes, that is what we're particularly concerned about. All right, let's go a little more in depth here. Let's take a break from all the real doom and gloom of this scenario. Let's take a look now at a more meteorological perspective, the stuff I shine bright in. This is going to be your wind shear map from the European model. Why are we looking at this? We're going to take a look at your upper level anticyclone. What was that? That phrase, yeah. You heard that with Helene, didn't you? Well, what that's going to do is it's going to help the storm breathe in and breathe out. Oh, no. Yeah. So, while it might not look too serious, I mean, you look at all your wind shear here, you're thinking, oh, wow, it's cutting across, system's dead. No, it's not. Because your wind shear is not enveloping your entire system. It's actually kind of curving around it in your outflow patterns. This will substantially intensify your hurricane here. And this will persist a little bit longer. When it starts to weaken, well, there you go. Wind shear takes it over and it dies. But that's not going to be until it's well after Florida. This thing's going to persist a long time, isn't it? Well, here is your track guidance, Tropical Storm Milton. I'm going to highlight this in red, because this is insane consistency and insane agreement. It's straight over Tampa. Actually, worse, North Tampa. Your storm surge, funneling up, just constantly. So yeah, very tight consensus here, directly over the city of Tampa on your model track guidance. And to think you all thought you were in a storm bubble, didn't you? Well, that's because storms aren't supposed to do this. And this one is a rare exception, a rare case study, if you will. Okay, we're going to look a little more high definition. In fact, we're going to zoom in a little bit on this one. All right. I hope you enjoy just how far in I zoomed there. I actually didn't know the map would allow me to do this. But right here, right in your star, this is the city of Tampa right there. Right over the National Hurricane Center line. And take a look at all of your tracks. Look at this. Just off to your north. In fact, there's an even tighter cluster. Barely off to the north by just a few miles. So yeah, you need to be monitoring this as closely as you can. You need to check the National Hurricane Center probably 4 or even more than 4 times a day, especially when we start getting into your hourly updates as well. Alright, and now it's time to take a look at your model intensity guidance for Milton. These are one of the times I wish I was wrong. Because I actually thought about this morning and I'm thinking, yeah, this has potential to be high-end. Yeah, this has potential, likelihood to be high-end at this point. Yeah, take a look at that. A lot of members shooting Cat 3, even Cat 4. This is not good. You still have a lot down to Cat 1, Cat 2. That will even cause significant impacts. There's no good ending to this, unless this somehow tracks south of Tampa, which at this point we need to hope for. That'll lessen your storm surge impacts significantly, but stronger systems will typically curve off to the north. So I'm not entirely sure what we're dealing with here. That's not great. Well, with this being said, here's my intensity forecast here, and this thing will struggle to start off, but then we'll really get off to the races. Category 1 probably by tomorrow evening. And this will go through stair steps of intensification. I like to kind of look at this in that sense here. And I do expect this to potentially reach high-end Cat 3, nearly low-end Category 4 strength. Wouldn't shock me one bit. And then this will potentially persist a bit longer, and then we'll start to weaken, as much as it can. Now I want to take you to this incredible website from polarweather.com. You'd think it'd be for tracking snowstorms or winter systems. No, he has it for absolutely everything. It's made by Tomer Berg up here. Huge shout out goes to him for this incredible website here that we're about to use. This is your GEFS ensemble here, with how strong your system can get. All your different members here. And we are talking about potentially a major hurricane here, like I said. And this will be on the morning, or this will be on the afternoon here of Wednesday. Well, it's been trending a little faster lately, and you can see this thing rushes straight through Florida. And hurricane impacts through the entirety of Central Florida is likely. Now, I want to look at one more. I was going to look at the other two, but they're a little unrealistic. Here's your EPS ensembles. I'm going to let this play out and tell you what you think. Oh boy. Well, the EPS, there's actually quite a few members in there shooting for a Category 4. This is a European ensemble. They generally are conservative. You can see a lot of them do weaken right before landfall. Weaken a lot, actually. This would be great news. Your surge would already be done, though. But you can see many of these do track across the state as a Category 1, if not even a Category 2 hurricane through the heart of Florida. And we're talking about Orlando there to spice things up, potentially getting up to 100-mile-an-hour winds. Disney. Yeah, that might not be a great situation here that we're looking at. What do your hurricane models say about this? Maybe they're a little less aggressive. Sure looks like it at first, but no, it's immediately off to the races. Look at Monday. Already bona fide major hurricane. We'll have to see if this happens specifically. This continues to deepen really rapidly. HWRF does show about a Category 5 hurricane forming. This is by Wednesday morning here. And this thing flies straight towards Tampa and pow, right over Tampa, 940 millibars, Category 4 hurricane, and a ridiculous amount of storm surge funneling up the bay here. This would be a destructive situation, maybe even a catastrophe if this happened. We really hope this doesn't happen, right? And there are other models showing different outcomes, thank goodness. This just barrels across the state, though. Category 2, Category 3 in the side of Florida. What is this system? This is just ridiculous. It's kind of like a Helene light, in a way, across the state of Florida. And this does continue as a hurricane into the Atlantic. Wow. Quite impressive. Now, your HMON model shows this struggling to organize a little more. Little bit more believable. I mean, maybe not. We'll see. This does get going into a major hurricane. Approaching Category 5 intensity on approach here to Florida. And does go just off to north. Very significant weakening at landfall. Only talking about a Category 3 landfall here. This would be slightly better news and totally misses Tampa. Is it going quite further north of Tampa? It's definitely possible, but not likely. I do think this will stay a little bit further south, probably into this northward bound here. I don't think it could go much further north than that at the moment, but well, we'll see. Maybe this will miss Tampa. That would be incredible, wouldn't it? Oh my goodness, but we can't get too excited about that yet. We're still far out, and the hurricane models are still going bananas with this. We're going to stick to the 12Z run of the halves A. I'm not going to show you the halves B. If you see it online, please take it with a grain of salt. I don't really want to say this thing's going to explode into a Category 5 really early on in its life. It does have the conditions to do so, but we saw this with Helene, and that did not happen. So be careful with what you trust online. 12Z, all right, shows us not organizing nearly as fast. So that's the good news. But still, towards the end of its cycle here, 942 Category 4 hurricane, and this does look to go really close to Tampa. Look at this storm surge. Oh my goodness. It's a lot weaker, but it doesn't matter when you're carrying a wall of water from when you previously were at Category 4 or 5 when you make landfall. Taking this through time, this screams across the state of Florida, central Florida, bringing hurricane impacts everywhere. Okay, I absolutely will not be showing the 18Z halves B model either. Again, if you see it online, please take it with a grain of salt. We're looking at our 12Z instead for a potentially more realistic outcome here. Still going to be aggressive as half speed does. What in the world? That is explosive intensification here going into Monday night. Category 5 on Monday night, we'll see. That's insane, but needless to say, this thing peaks at 918 millibars. That's a Category 5, and this does move here well to north of Tampa, near Cedar Key. I know you don't want to hear that again. Category 4 landfall, significant, well, not as significant storm surge here, coming in at a much weirder angle here, but still significant impacts. Screaming across the state of Florida, still could be a Category 2 in central Florida. Yeah, this thing is insane. Now we're going to look at one more model before we can finally put this update to bed. It has gone on long enough. We can see the GFS being fairly aggressive, showing a major hurricane quite early on there. And you can see, goodness gracious, alright, GFS has a tendency to be evil. At any time, it can be evil, and that's what it's doing. It shows a direct Cedar Key landfall as a Category 3 to Category 4. Please do not take that into consideration. That is probably an outlier. It can't go that far north. If it does, though, yeah, those areas, they don't need anything else. Alright, with that being said, that's about going to do it today's video. Want to show you one more thing. This was a thumbnail I made today. As you can see, very concerning across the board. Look at that. Big time hurricane. I was hyping a little with this. Not anymore. The models have told me, no, you're on the right track, Alex. I wish I wasn't. And you can see, I show the arrow here. Significant storm surge in the Tampa Bay region. Intense storm surge likely. Prepare now. You get it, right? Well, what was the thumbnail I was trying to make just last night? Ha! What? Just another tropical system. We could have a 90% chance of maybe a tropical storm in the next 7 days, but even just a 40% chance in the next 2 days. Wow. That's what we were seeing yesterday. And today, what is this? Look at how fast this thing has organized. And that's what I'm saying. The ceiling for this is extremely high, as the latest model runs have shown me that I haven't quite shown you all, because I don't want to be spreading fear-mongering here. I'm just going to show you the most realistic outcomes. That's what I'm here to do. And yeah, this could end up quite significant for Tampa Bay. I really hope that everything goes well. That being said, thank you all so much for tuning into today's weather discussion here, because this is getting out of hand in a hurry, really. And if you did enjoy the video, please be sure to smash that like button. Feel free to subscribe to my little corner of the weather community down there. And even ring the bell notification icon so you know when I upload next. Especially people along Florida, you need to know, as this could get quite significant here. Also, be sure to share this with friends and family. You know the drill there. And with that being said, I'll see you all tomorrow, definitely tomorrow at this point, in another Milton discussion. I pray to all goodness it's not a hurricane by then. Well, have a great night, everyone, and stay safe.